Hello, and welcome to the Table of Woo podcast, the place for lightworkers, mystics, healers, intuitives, empaths, and seekers. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm a psychic medium, mentor, somatic coach, educator, and energy healer who's been doing this work since 2015. Here at the Table of Woo, you'll deepen your spiritual connection, enhance your self-awareness, elevate your well-being, and empower yourself to live in your full alignment. Here at the Table of Woo, we normalize spiritual gifts and treat them with reverence and respect while having a really good time. This show is your sanctuary, a space where intuition leads, healing happens, and you learn to create a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. This is the place where you can ask the questions you've always had so you can start to feel safer using your own spiritual gifts. Start by understanding what's impacting your energy and download your free energy audit at brendawinkle.com/audit. Whether you're building a heart-led business, you're just curious about crystals and oracle cards, you're seeing spirits, you want to reclaim your energy, or you're navigating your next chapter, this is your invitation to come home to yourself. Grab your seat at the Table of Woo podcast. Hello and welcome to the Table of Woo podcast. Okay, so here's the thing. I know how much chaos and fear and uncertainty is in the world right now. And that's why this felt like the absolutely perfect time to launch a podcast called The Table of Woo, because at the core of anything that we would label as woo is deep trust, inner knowing, connection with the divine, connection with spirit. And in uncertain times, as we're in right now, and we have the dawning of the new earth, and so many of you are feeling called into spiritual gifts and spiritual awakening and just to do more connecting to yourself, to each other, to the divine. It seems like this is the time to embrace all the woo. So my name's Brenda Winkle. I am your host on this podcast. I'm also the host of the top-rated Your Yes-Filled Life podcast, which deals with similar topics, but not the same. We have a much more leadership focus on Your Yes-Filled Life. So if that's your jam, invitation to go have a listen. This podcast is especially for you if you are a mystic, a healer, a seer, an empath, an intuitive, a seeker, a light worker, or anyone who's just curious about all things woo. Welcome to the Table of Woo. And I'm just so excited that you're listening. It means so much that you're here. This is a brand new podcast. And one of the things that could be really helpful if you're willing is to share this podcast with someone that you care about, or maybe 2 or 3 someones that you care about, just to get it into the ears of more listeners. And as we develop this podcast together, yes, that's right, you and I, as we develop this podcast together, I want to make sure that we are answering the questions that you have, talking about the things that are important to you. So invitation to reach out to me and let me know, what is it that you want me to be talking about on the Table of Woo podcast. So as I leaned into recording this episode for you, I have so much on my mind and heart that I really want to share with you. And so I'm going to just keep writing down all of my ideas instead of trying to fit them all into one episode, because they're not going to fit into one episode. But here's what I will say. In these uncertain times, when there's chaos around and we look around and things are unrecognizable, the one thing that you can trust is your intuition. Your intuition, your inner knowing, your higher self, your connection to the divine. You can always trust that. And when you're looking around at thinking, who can I trust? What's going to happen? My invitation to you is to lean even more deeply into your own practices so that you can access that inner knowing that you have. And we all have this inner knowing. Literally, we all have access to it. But not all of us know how to get access to it. And so we'll be talking about that as the podcast goes along. But we're also going to be talking about some of the blocks to intuition. And we'll be talking about some simple ways to think about and map intuition just so we can describe it a little bit better. But we can't do that all in one episode, which is why I'm not kidding you. This is now the fifth time I've tried to record this episode because there's just so much I want to tell you and so much I want to share with you and so much I want to teach you that the hardest part has been deciding where to begin. And so I think what we'll do is instead of me choosing where to begin, we're going to let spirit guide us. And we're going to be using a card deck. Now, I don't always use card decks to do readings. A lot of times I'll do collective or one-on-one readings without cards. In fact, more often than not, I'm not using cards. But for whatever reason, I'm being really led to use this Raise Your Vibration Oracle deck by Kyle Gray. And I just love the idea of raising our vibration. And so maybe that's what we're going to talk about. But we're going to let the cards tell us what we're going to talk about. Now, I just created a free course, Your Guide to Oracle and Tarot Cards. And I created it because I'm fascinated by all of the tarot and oracle card readers on TikTok and Instagram. I love watching them, and they're really good. They're really talented. And except for a very few, there are two things even really experienced, really talented readers are missing in their readings. And so I thought, you know what? If there are really experienced, really talented readers that are missing things in their readings, maybe I could create something that would help not only experienced readers, but also the readers who are curious. Maybe you've never read cards. Maybe you don't even have a deck of cards. And so this course is going to be supported for you no matter whether you're a very experienced reader and you've been reading tarot and oracle card decks for years, or if you don't even have a card deck, because I'm going to walk you through all of those things. The two things even experienced readers miss, three things you should be paying attention to in all of your readings. And I'm also going to be doing some really basic questions like how to choose your deck, the difference between oracle and tarot cards. And so you can go access that by clicking the link in the show notes or going to brendawinkle.com/oracle. And we're going to be doing a card reading every time. Well, not necessarily a card reading, a reading of some sort every single podcast episode for the collective for the next 7 days. And what that means, I'm going to break down those terms. The collective means you. You are part of the collective because you're here listening today. We are creating a group energetic field, you and me and all of the other people listening, and that becomes our collective. So the reading will be for the collective. And for the next 7 days, it doesn't mean necessarily from the 7 days from the day I recorded or even the day the podcast airs. It's for the next 7 days from the time that you hear this reading. And that's how readings work. So I'm going to use this deck by Kyle Gray, the Raise Your Vibration Oracle deck. And I'm going to do what I always do, which is I'm going to tap on it 2 or 3 times. And then I'm just going to make sure that I'm touching each of the cards just to make sure that the cards have my energy. And then I'm going to set my intention as I'm mixing the cards. And my intention is to get the message that's just the highest and best for this collective. What is it that you need to know or do or be or experience over the next 7 days? And so I'm just mixing, mixing, mixing. And my personal process means that I usually end up with cards that stand above the deck. Oh, this is a good one. This one says, my sexuality is sacred. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here's what I was thinking about talking to you about before this card came out. I was thinking about talking to you about the 2 most commonly blocked chakras. And this card goes perfectly into that. So let's remember this. My sexuality is sacred. And if you're watching on YouTube, you see that there was actually another card sticking up. So we're going to draw that one. And oh, this is perfect as well. My breath connects me to life. So let's talk about what each of these mean. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit meta here, and I'm going to show you how it would be if you actually had a reading with me. So, I'm going to tell you my impressions, my intuitive knowing, my downloads, my communication with spirit, and then we'll look at the author's guidance. So, when we think about my sexuality is sacred, there's so much messaging out there about the gaze for whom your sexuality is to provide pleasure. And what I mean by that is it's so common. Oh, my nose is running as I'm saying this. Oh, so interesting. And I'm naming that because everything that happens inside of a reading means something to the reading. So we'll come back to that in a second. But um, we have this idea that sexuality can be something forbidden, it can be something sinful, it can be something that is extreme, it can be something that people try to avoid or to talk about only behind closed doors. And while there is certainly a way to be appropriate about sexuality, there is also this idea that your sexuality is sacred because your sex organs, whether you're male or female, are located within and around the sacral or second chakra. And that is the chakra that is the birthplace of creativity and new ideas. And by the way, it's an actual birthplace. If you're a woman and you have a uterus and you have born or birthed children, it's actually the birthplace of human life as well. And so thinking of that can really change how we're looking at sexuality. And when we can embrace the pleasure not only of sexuality, but of sensuality. And, the things that, for example, the candles or the lotions that feel really good and smell really good, or the flavor of something that just tastes amazing to you, whether that's the beautifully customized cup of coffee in the morning where you blend up your coconut milk into a beautiful froth and then you get to sip the hot coffee, whatever that pleasure looks like for you, or maybe for you, it's going to an art museum and looking at all of the art and feeling your senses come alive. That's all part of what happens inside the sacral chakra. And so when you can honor your sexuality as sacred, your sacral chakra comes back online. So we'll talk more about the sacral chakra in a second, but let's address this second card, which is my breath connects me to life. I love this. I'm a breathwork facilitator, among other things, and there is so much power in breath. You can regulate the nervous system. You can allow emotions to flow. You can calm yourself down. You can release and reduce stress and anxiety. You can come back to the present moment. You can get in touch with your higher self and with the divine all through the breath. So there's a reason why the word prana in Sanskrit means life. It's like breath of life. If you've ever heard that in a yoga class, life ceases to exist when you no longer breathe, or at least life in the physical plane, right? So your breath connects you to life. And so many times when we're worried or stressed or scared or tired or distracted, our breathing becomes shallow and maybe fast. So one of the things that you're being invited to do right now is to deepen and slow your breath. Even while you're listening to this podcast, just allow your breath to go a little bit deeper and a little bit slower. So let's take 3 breaths together, in through the nose, out through the mouth, just to get ready for the rest of our episode. Here we go. Breathing in, exhale. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Hold briefly at the top. Exhale through the mouth. Hold briefly at the bottom. And inhale deeply. And sigh. Oh my gosh. It never ceases to amaze me how much better I feel, even if I'm facilitating, how much better I feel when I breathe. My path to becoming a breathwork facilitator was purely out of survival. I was a music teacher. It was like 2008. I'd just gone through a really contentious divorce, very difficult divorce. I was a single mom for the first time. I had almost almost full custody of my daughter. It was a lot of pressure. I'd gone back to work after being at home for a year and a half or 2 years. And I was in a classroom with a bunch of kids. And I knew that I felt better in yoga class. And so I started to teach my classroom that was in front of me some of my breath from yoga because I couldn't think anymore. I knew I was having like a massive stress response. I was not yet a breathwork facilitator or an energy worker or anything. I didn't know anything about somatics. All I knew was I was in survival mode and I needed to feel better. So I took some deep breaths and then I had the students take some deep breaths. And you know what happened? Not only did I feel better and was I able to regulate my nervous system, but the kids felt better. I was feeling initially a little bit guilty because I was like, oh, this is totally selfish of me to breathe with the kids. But um, it was a game changer for them too. And, you know, invitation to put this practice in your back pocket. 3 deep, slow breaths with a hold at the top and a hold at the bottom of the last breath. And it will like change your life. If you were to do that every day or anytime that you just need a stress relief, you're going to be blown away by literally blown away by how much better everything feels. So let's check the guidebook now for what Kyle Gray says the meaning of these oracle cards was. Um, and Oh, and this is really going hand in glove with what I said, which is that your sexuality is how you experience and express yourself sexually. And sadly, this tender and vulnerable aspect of yourself is where you may hold guilt, fear, and shame. There's a good chance that at some point in your life it's been misunderstood, disrespected, and or used, and you may have even had to hide, bury, or detach from it in order to navigate certain situations. Today, the universe is encouraging you to reclaim your sensual and sexual self. Gone are the days when you need to fit into someone else's mold. Ooh, I love that. Reclaim what is rightfully yours, and that way you can heal past wounds and overcome any restrictions that have been placed upon your uniqueness and individuality. Your sexuality is sacred. I believe this too. And we're going to be talking about this. Like I said at the beginning, I wasn't totally sure where we were going to go. I was going to let spirit guide and whoo, now I know exactly where we're going. So we're going to be talking about the second chakra here in just a second. Oh, but now I opened the book from Kyle Gray about this card deck, the Raise Your Vibration deck, and here's what he says about my breath connects me to life. In yogic teachings, breath is known as prana, which is another word for life force. The ancient yogis saw no distinction between breath and life force. And today, the universe is encouraging you to tune in to the power of your breath. Now, I want to break this down for you in a really meta way. And I also want you to go download that course on Oracle and Tarot cards because it's good if I do so myself. But what I did was I tapped into my own intuition and channeled the message before looking at the guidebook, which also like it it makes me feel more confident in my own psychic and intuitive and mystical gifts, but it also helps my sitters, the people who are being read by me, trust me even more when I can read the cards before reading the cards, if that makes sense. So, invitation to trust your own intuition and your own noticings as you work with any card deck. And again, go download that course. I'm telling you, it's really good. It's really helpful. And you can also get a coupon code to save $50 off of your first reading with me. So we're going to dive in and we're going to start talking about chakras. Now, I was planning to talk with you about the sacral chakra and the throat chakra, but I'm really being guided to talk about your heart chakra instead, especially with that card on the breath of life. And here's just a little tidbit you can pack away into your back pocket. Your chakras affect any organ system or musculature around them. So the reason that I know we're being guided to talk about the heart chakra is because the heart chakra is the closest chakra to the lungs, which is where we breathe. And the sacral chakra is very close and pretty much part of the sexual organs, whether you're male or female, which is how I know we're going to talk about that. So we're going to talk about the heart and the sacral chakra today. Now, I have to tell you also, if you want to do a deep dive with me on chakras, I'm hosting a workshop May 20, 21, 22, and it's a 3-day chakra workshop where we're going to dive into each chakra, learn to identify blocks and how to clear the blocks. So let me talk to you about some examples about what this might mean as we dive into talking about the sacral and the heart chakra. So if you're having an imbalance or a block in the sacral chakra, it can show up as being unable to set boundaries. That's a surprise, right? That comes from your sacral chakra. There are other chakras that deal with boundaries, but the actual setting of boundaries happens in the sacral chakra. Your relationships are impacted by the sacral chakra. Your sexuality and sensuality and ability to access pleasure happen in the sacral chakra. So if any of those are feeling kind of offline or maybe just not working as they have in the past, it could be that there's a block. Now, here's something really important to know about chakras. Chakras are always in flux. They're always in motion. They're always changing because they're responding to your movement, to your posture, to the foods that you eat, the water you drink, your environment, your situation, your thoughts, and your feelings. And so your chakras are never stagnant. So yeah, you can go get those chakra pictures made like in places like Sedona where you can get a chakra picture, but just know that that's not what your chakras always look like. It's literally a snap in time. And the same thing is true of auras. So I guess they're called aura pictures in Sedona, but it's the same thing. We're talking about the same concept. So your aura might look one way one day, and it might look a different way a different day. And it doesn't mean anything is gone wrong. It just is showing you what's present right now. So, like if you're working on your own sense of sexuality or sensuality or pleasure or boundaries or relationships or creativity, which is also in the second chakra, then your aura might be more orange because orange is the color of the sacral chakra. So let's talk about one quick win way that you can start to shift balance in this chakra. And it is moving your hips. So if you think about, you could even do this seated. You can just rotate your hips in one direction in a circle and then switch. And just do that for a minute or 2 minutes. If you do that for a minute or 2 minutes every day, you're going to feel completely different in a week's time. I'm serious. It is so profound when we start to move the energy, especially in the second chakra. So, in a lot of our spiritual community, a lot of light workers and mystics and seers and psychics and mediums, a lot of us, I'm grouping myself in with this, have really good access to the heart chakra and everything above. But when it comes to these lower chakras, the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, a lot of people have a hard time accessing those lower chakras. And there's a lot of reasons for it. Among them are the big three: guilt, fear, and shame. And so, as we begin to bring these chakras back online, it's not uncommon for you to feel a sense of arousal. And I just want to make sure that you know that is not a bad sign. It's actually a good sign that you're moving energy in the sacral chakra. So you can stand up and you can do your hip circles as you're standing. And then I would invite you to do, a few one direction and then switch directions and then switch again, just so you're getting all of those muscles on all sides of the chakra, some movement and some stretching. And if you're really uncomfortable with this, if you feel really self-conscious with this, then go into a bathroom, shut the door, turn your back to the mirror, and just move your hips. Okay. It doesn't have to be something that you show other people, but even if you just did that, I'm telling you, you're going to have a whole unlock that's going to blow your ever loving mind. You're going to love it. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about the heart chakra. So the heart chakra, well, okay, I really do want to talk about the throat chakra too. We'll see if we have time today. But the heart chakra governs everything near the heart chakra, including the heart, the lungs, can also govern arms and shoulders and hands. And so if you've got any upper back issues or any issues in shoulders, hands, it can be related to the heart chakra. And I want to be really careful here and really overt in saying anything that I say to you on the podcast is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor and I don't offer professional medical advice or mental health counseling or therapy. I am a breathwork facilitator, a somatic coach. I'm trauma informed and I'm certified. I'm also a Reiki master teacher, an advanced theta healing practitioner, a cleansing practitioner, and an intuitive. But I am not a doctor and I'm not a therapist. And so anything that you hear in this podcast, do it if you feel good about it. And if you don't feel good about it, don't, but don't take it as medical advice. So, when we have an imbalance in the heart chakra, it can show up as high blood pressure in the body, can also show up as low blood pressure. It can show up as heart issues. It can also show up as heartburn. And emotionally, it can lead to feeling disconnected, feeling isolated, feeling lonely, and that's been a big theme this week. In fact, now I'm sort of understanding, okay, yeah, I get it. I've had so many sessions in the past week with my coaching clients and with my psychic reading clients where loneliness has come up. Whether it's like loneliness in the physical, wishing friends would text you back and wishing friends would agree to do activities with you, or existential loneliness, it is really a thing right now. And so this indicates the sense of loneliness that there's something going on in the heart. And so one of the things that I would invite you to do as we bring this heart chakra back into balance is to place one or both hands on the heart, kind of like you're just placing your flat hand palm down on your heart. And then I would invite you to take 10 breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. And you'll do it by connecting the inhale to the exhale, to the inhale to the exhale. So it's a little bit of a circular breath, and it's going to sound like I'll do this 3 times so you can kind of hear it. You're going to sound like this. Except you'll count to 10. So you can keep breathing if you're breathing until you get to 10, and then take a break. If you want to do another round of 10, you certainly could. And you're going to be feeling sensation. Sometimes, as we bring the heart chakra back online, it can feel really emotional. That might mean you feel a lump in your throat and you feel like you want to cry, or maybe you actually begin to cry. All of that's welcome because the heart chakra also deals with our emotions. And so if your heart chakra is out of balance, sometimes it feels like you're numb, like you can't feel things. And so as you create more feeling in the heart chakra, it's sort of like that feeling when you sit on your foot and your foot goes to sleep. And then when it comes back online, when you realize the foot's asleep and you change your position, and then you feel those pins and needles, and it's actually just a little bit painful as the blood flows again in your foot for a moment or two. And so you're sort of like stretching and maybe rolling your ankle around, trying to get the blood flow back in your leg. So the breath is going to do the exact same thing for you as your emotions come back online for the heart chakra. Now, this chakra workshop, we're going to be really diving deep. We've got sounds for each chakra and mudras or hand positions for each chakra, specific foods you can eat to support each chakra, ways to recognize an imbalance and how to figure out what chakra is being affected by the imbalance, or maybe there's more than one. So I really would love to see you there. It's May 20, 21, 22. The investment is $111, and there is a replay that you'll have access to for 30 days. So, in case something comes up and you're not able to attend one of the nights, you can still register and then catch the replay. So, these times will be Pacific time. It'll be from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Pacific time, and invite your friends. In fact, if you do a watch party with your friends, you guys could even split the enrollment and you could watch, in one of your living rooms. Now, there will be some breakout activities, so you guys would all break out together in one room, but that's going to be fine. You'll have a great time. So, invitation to do that. So, as we come to a close for this first episode of the Table of Woo podcast, I'm realizing we don't yet have time to talk about the throat chakra. Perhaps we'll be talking about that in an episode soon. But I just want to say sometimes it can feel lonely when you are a seeker, a mystic, an intuitive, a medium, a light worker, a healer, a sensitive person. And I want to tell you, you're not alone. You're not weird. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You have really special gifts inside you. And the curiosity that made you click play on this podcast episode is proof of that gift inside you. Thank you so much for listening. If you would please go give the podcast a rating and review wherever you're listening, and share this episode with 2 or 3 of your friends just to tell people, hey, there's this new podcast out. Thank you for being here. Bye for now. Until next time. Okay, so you've built this beautiful life and your successful career, powerful presence, and a calendar full of responsibilities that once lit you up, but lately something has made it feel just a little bit heavier. So let me ask you something. What if this was your moment to soften into a new way of leading? I'm Brenda Winkle, a psychic medium, somatic coach, and intuitive guide, and I work privately with high achieving women who are ready to trust themselves more deeply, to reclaim their energy and lead from the inside out. In our one-on-one coaching together, you'll experience the kind of support that's both deeply spiritual and highly strategic. I'll bring my psychic gifts, mediumship, and somatic tools to help you move through emotional residue, to help you get really clear on what matters most to you, to help you clear your energetic field, and lead in a way that feels powerful, precise, and completely aligned with who you really are. Leadership can feel really lonely, but it doesn't have to. This isn't about doing more, it's about being more you. If you've been craving personalized support, intuitive insight, and energetic sovereignty, this is your invitation. Go to brendawinkle.com/coaching to learn more, because your yes-filled life, it starts the moment you say yes to yourself.